Tell us your role in the Israeli government and what has brought you here to Atlanta.
My role is I'm the head of Anti-Racism Coordinator's Office. I'm here to share about Israeli government activities to eradicate racism and the prevention of discriminations.
So, how does the Israeli government define racism? Does your office go beyond that title of racism being sort of discrimination in general?
There are several definitions regarding the Israeli laws. Before that, there is a question, how come the Israeli government established that kind of units? The trigger was that on 2015, there was an accident between police and Ethiopian soldiers, and they were arrested. The security camera documented the incident, and it shows the soldier beaten by police with no reason. That was the cause that thousands of Ethiopian Jews demonstrated and demanded to eradicate racism. And in 2016, the Israeli government decided to establish a governmental committee to investigate the issue. The end of this committee was a report that there is racism in Israel, and Israel must take responsibility to eradicate racism. And the main recommendation was to establish an Anti-Racism Coordinator's Office. That's because there is 4 agencies in Israel that are engaging in discrimination, especially employees issue and disabilities. But there wasn't one organization that coordinates all the activity. So our definitions about racism is a unique definition of racism. Racism is harm to dignity, rights, and opportunities on the basis of group affiliation. Racism is based on perceived superiority, whether biological or cultural, that is engineered in the state and societal institutions, social norms, and culture, which means that we're not talking about race or different races of human beings. We're talking about actions. With these definitions, we work to take care of complaints, and we are leading comprehensive training and education to anti-racism, because our goal is to prevent racism issues in the future.
So are you approaching this from a governmental perspective, eradicating it from government agencies and systems, or is this society at large and you're dealing with the private sector as well?
We are focusing in the government ministries. I think the main idea is, as long as we can create fundamental change in the ministries, and as long as we can train the government employees to serve equally all Israeli population, and to create fair without racism and discrimination, the public sphere especially, it will influence the public. Also in the private, we are engaging with discrimination in public services. The law prohibited these kinds of activities, but we don't have jurisdiction to deal with private society, private business. So we are focusing just the ministries, authorities.
What led you to be in this position? Why were you the one they capped?
It wasn't my dream to be in this position. I have been a lawyer for 17 years in the Ministry of Justice. I met people that talked about racism and incidents. Personally, I faced racism in 2012 when some house owners signed on contracts that they will not rent or sell house to Ethiopian Jews. And it shocked me because I thought that as long as I career and get education, it will not be close to me. Then I understand that racism is a matter of skin color or different culture or in general affiliation to a group. So then I started to work on these fields. But after the large demonstrations in 2015, I realized that I should do more to eradicate racism. I cannot see I should be the person that can try to change the reality. I have been in this position 6 years, established the unit, and I try to lay professional tools and also to try to lead public awareness to the issue. And also I have 4 children. I want to create a better reality for them. So it's private, but also it's a public issue.
Over the 6 years, what do you see as some of the successes?
I think I see winds of change regarding police and community issues. We lead to create procedures to reduce conflicts between police and society. And also I see that there is activities to educate children in schools to anti-racism. For me, the best solution is to invest effort in the education. So we are really doing more in these fields.
Israel has an education system that's divided into different groups, different approaches. Is that an obstacle to trying to educate people to not discriminate against others when they're not necessarily even in a classroom with them growing up?
It's very challenging, but what to do last year is to establish a committee in the Ministry of Education to try to manage education to anti-racism. There is a separate education system. We cannot influence all, but we are trying to do our best to succeed in the place that we can to lead a change. It's obstacles, but we're trying to spread education in the whole education system.
We talk about education in the United States as an approach to anti-Semitism, and yet anti-Semitism keeps going. To what extent can you really teach people not to hate?
I think education is one part of solution. We're talking about law enforcement, where we should promote legislation which can lead to prevent racism. But in the long time, when I think about impact, I think education is still the good solution for hate. There's a difference between Israel and the States. And, we are a small country, and our social problem is very unique. We live together, Jewish from different countries. We scattered over the world, and we gather to Israel from Africa, Asia, Europe, America, of course. So we come to Israel with different culture, different beliefs, but the education is about to know each other, to recognize that there's a different society in Israel, and we should take responsibility for living together. So that's the issue. And also we have challenges with non-Jewish population in Israel, but the basic is to know that we are equal, all Israel society, no matter what they are, religion or culture or ethnicity, all deserve to treat equally. That is the main idea of education.
Your approach to fighting discrimination, is it different when you're dealing with people not hating Ethiopians or the Ashkenazi Mizrahi split, or when it gets to how people view Druze or Arabs? Or do you have to break it down and do different things for different forms of discrimination?
The base of discrimination is the same. When person decides, especially public service, prevent a service from others because his or her affiliation, it's not the matter if it's on basis of skin color or ethnicity or Sephardi or Ashkenazi. The feeling is the same. Someone not treat you well, not treat you equally. So our agenda is to take care of all complaints, no matter motivation of the activities, and to lay the professional base to lead this action. So there's no different about our activities.
I'm sure there are people out there who look at your efforts and say, well, this is just trying to make it look nice, but really Israeli society is full of hatred and discrimination. What do you say to people who say Israel's just trying to wash away its sins?
I heard these voices, but I'm trying to ignore that kind of background noise. I don't have the privilege not doing. I'm working every day to try to do more. I think what encouraging me is to see that society more aware about the problem. We are working very hard to access our service to the society, and we see details of complaints. Just for example, more than 24% of complaints is towards Arab citizens in Israel. More than 24% is about Ethiopian Jews, and more than 10% is about ultra-Orthodox. Of course, we have more societies, but the fact is we are dealing every day to eradicate racism, and we are dealing every day to take care of complaints about discrimination.
Are there things that have been particularly frustrating to you over the 6 years you've been doing this work in this office, or things that you thought would be easier to deal with that have just proved intractable?
Yeah, I thought that it will be a short time to eliminate racism, but I have an expectation of the public leaders to be aware about their announcement regarding racism. And also, I think the unit must be more effective with the jurisdictions. And also, I think we did a lot with limit measures. We need to do more activities And we need the government to do more in our activities. I'm trying to say, I hope that we will close the units because we finished eliminating racism.
For 4 of the years that you've been doing this work, Israel's had some political craziness with lots of elections and government uncertainty. How has that affected the commitment to what you're doing or even your ability to do what you're doing?
It's very, very challenging. I'm in this position under 3 governments and under 6 ministries. Every minister comes with a new agenda, but our activities, I see that it's beyond any political issue. The thing is that we need more tools and more governmental support to do more in these fields. And I worry a little bit about what's going to be, but there is a difference between the statements of leaders and the politicians and the reality. The fact is we are still working, we are doing our job every day, and I hope it will be continued.
You were a 6-year appointment to begin with, right? Are you going to be there longer?
It can be 6 years, but there is a chance that I will be in this position a year. I said to my bosses that as long as racism exists, I should be in this position.
Realistically, what is the goal of your office? Do you really believe that racism can be eliminated from society or from what the government is doing? Or it's just let's lower it from whatever this level is to some lower level, at least have police not be racist, things like that?
Our mission is to eradicate racism at all, but to be realistic. My focusing is to reduce as much as possible in the government, reduce racism and discrimination in the government ministries. Because the impact of racism or discrimination within the government unit and ministries is very harmful to the society. And also I think that as much as we can work with governmental employees and make the government authorities to be more equal, treat people dignity, and we can influence society. So my goal is to do more to make the governmental authorities more equal.
You told the Jerusalem Post last year, racism has aspects in common with terror. Everyone says Israel's biggest problem now is the social conflict element, not Iran. Is racism an existential threat to Israel?
Not physically, but I'm really aware about what can happen to the Israeli society. Israel has good ability to deal with outside threat, but we don't yet take seriously the social problem in Israel. I always said the government should strengthen our units because we try to spread the message that we are all equal and we should working together for living in partnership. I hope that the government will understand that this issue, the social issue, is very crucial.
You also told the Post that ending racism could end anti-Semitism. What did you mean by that?
I mean that I think the major base of all kind of discrimination and hate crime is racism. Also, anti-Semitism is a kind of racism. I'm talking about Israel, not the world. As long as Israel take care seriously the racism in Israel and create a reality that we all against racism and working to eliminating racism, it will influence outside. Others asking about the racism in Israel. And I'm glad to say that 6 years ago, we didn't have an answer to this question. And now I'm saying with full confidence that we are doing. Israel took responsibility to eradicate racism, to work very hard. I work very hard, but lay a base of anti-racism education. And also, I think the unit is really kind of solution to try to deliver the message that Israel act against racism. My belief is as long as we can eradicate racism in Israel and create equality in Israel, it will influence the anti-Semitism issue.
You see anti-racism as an issue that diaspora Jews and Israeli Jews or Israelis in general can be and should be working together on?
Absolutely. I think we have a lot in common, and the state of Israel belongs to all of us, and it's our responsibility to take care that Israel will exist without racism and to be equal for all. That's why I believe that this duty is for all of us, and I'm sure that with cooperation we'll take a big step to make reality better.
We've certainly had issues in the United States with racism among police, with police targeting people of color differently from others. Are there things that in the United States we can learn from what training and what steps have been taken in Israel to deal with the problems with the police, or vice versa? Are there things that have been going on in the United States that you can take back to Israel?
United States has a big experience in this issue, and I will learn more. But I mentioned that the trigger to establish our unit was police and Ethiopians Jews conflict. What we succeed to do is to create a policing procedure to limit the ability of police to discriminate, guidelines how to treat people, not just Ethiopian Jews, not just people of color, but every person that police met in the street. So I see little change. I see that there is police awareness, and also I see that the police department takes responsibility to serving equally the whole Israeli society. And fortunately, in Israel, we have just one state police, so it's more easy to training and work with them closely. But having said that, we have a lot of work to do. I hope that next few years we'll do big steps to create that no one be judges on basis skin color or other differentiate issue.
Do the demographics of the police force need to change so that there's better understanding of the different communities that they're dealing with?
Cultural competency is good, but I think what necessary is to work on the policy and policing policy. As long as we can work to change the policy or to make that the policy is to treat equal to others, no matter what is the religion or the culture of the society, it will be good impact. Diversity is very good in general, but I don't think that it will be the main solution.
What, if anything, can we in the diaspora do to help with the issues in Israel?
I think diaspora should be aware about what's happening in Israel and deliver the message that the Israeli government should do more to eradicate racism and to promote equality among all the society in Israel. I think this value is important to us. This message should be helpful to us. That's the main thing.
Are there specific changes in law that Israel needs?
Our unit established by governmental resolution. There is a time that we should step up to legislation. So we're working with the government to promote the legislation for fighting racism and discrimination, and also to invest more ability. Having said that, even though we don't have much jurisdictions, we are doing our best and we are trying to make a change.
What sorts of changes need to be made in the law?
First, I think we need a law that we can work with it. I mentioned that we have kinds of definitions, what is racism, but we are working without a law settlement, a law arrangement. And I think as long as we can work by law, it will be more initiative to lead a change.
I think I read that when your family was coming to Israel from Ethiopia, the family got stopped in Sudan for a while and was committed, we're going to make it to Israel or we're going to die on the way. Why was that? Why was it so important for your family?
I think every Jewish in the world dreams to someday go back home. We feel anti-Semitism in Ethiopia, and not because we was different from our neighbors. That's because we were Jew. And it's really difficult to be a minority. We were in a minority in Ethiopia. And when my family decided to end exile, it was difficult to do it directly from Ethiopia to Israel. We literally walked to Israel by foot. We did this journey. We were in Sudan for a year in a refugee camp. I was around 9, 10 when I was in the refugee camp. I saw a lot of difficulties there. Many people died during the journey, but no one, I can talk about my family, thought to go back to Ethiopia. Eventually, we did end the exile by reaching Israel. And that's why my family and I especially think that cannot allow Israel be not equal. We should work very hard to create a better Israel. I feel that it's my responsibility to do that.